Jones from Peaceful Solutions Riding and Training. And today we're going to do a two-part series for you on how to properly bridle your horse safely. Today I have with me my mare Phantom, and we are going to go over part one on how to start the aids and cues of lowering the head, bringing the head towards you, and opening the horse's mouth. So Phantom is outfitted in one of my Peaceful Solutions halters and lead ropes. And we're going to start this exercise going back to something that I previously taught. Some horses aren't as small as Phantom. So in other words, she's 15 hands. I do have some horses that are 17 hands. And when I go to start this cue, I want to make sure that my horse can understand when I put my hand above and put pressure behind their ears, that I want them to lower the head. If I can't get that high, I'm going to start with a prerequisite cue, which I showed you before, of when you apply pressure downward with the halter and lead rope, that the horse will feel pressure from the halter behind the ear. Once the pole area feels that pressure and you apply that downward pressure, the second the horse lowers their head, release that pressure. And I will provide that link below that goes into great detail of that video. What we're going to teach today is how to use the palm of the hand in order to lower the horse's pole, how to use our hand as a cradle to bring the horse's nose to the left and give us a gentle hug, and how to use our fingers to open the horse's mouth on cue. So we're going to start the lowering head part first. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hold the end of my lead rope like I have here. I'm going to use the palm of my hand. Now, if your horse is a stalemate, in other words, when you go to apply this pressure and your horse is doing just what Phantom is doing here and they're bracing up against it, go ahead and go to your index finger and your thumb and use the pads of your fingertips to just gently add pressure downward. The second that your horse responds by lowering their head, release it. Then go ahead and go to the palm of your hand or the base of your wrist here, and when you apply pressure downward, your horse should respond by lowering their head. Once that section of the cue is taught, I like to make sure that my horses will lower below my waist. So basically below my belt buckle is where I'd like their head to be positioned. Once I can lower their head with the palm of my hand, I'll then go to the second part of the cue, which is to bring the horse's head towards my midsection, almost like she's giving me a gentle hug. Once that happens, I'm going to ask her to lower so she's below my waist, and then I'm going to immediately release both hands. So once again, right hand applies pressure on the pole, left hand brings the head to me, ask her to lower, release. So the left hand becomes like the steering wheel. I can steer Phantom's head and neck to the left or to the right based on the pressure from my left hand. Once I ask her to lower her head and give me a gentle hug at the same time, I'm then going to take my left finger, my index finger, and I'm going to slide it up the corner of Phantom's mouth until I reach the part with no teeth. I'm going to keep tickling the roof of her mouth until she opens her mouth, and then I'm going to immediately release all cues. We're going to start that whole section again. I'm going to ask her to lower, bring her head towards me, make sure her head is below my waist, she's giving me a gentle hug. I'm going to slide my finger up the top to the corner of her mouth. If she tries to raise her head, my hand is here to ask her to lower. She opens her mouth. If she moves her feet just like she did there, I'm going to follow her. The second that she opens her mouth, I will release all pressure. Once that is taught, then I'm going to go ahead and go to my thumb to apply the pressure on my left hand. This becomes extremely important because this is going to be what starts your cue to ask the horse to open their mouth, because the bit is going to be resting across your index finger and your thumb and between your index finger and your third finger. So once I go to ask her to lower her head, bring her head towards me, then I'm going to go ahead, like I said, and ask her to open the corner of her mouth on the right side. Once she'll do that, then I'll go ahead and just position my right hand under her chin. So again, I can steer her head and her neck if I need to with my right hand towards me. And I'm just going to allow my hand to rest over the top of the bridge of her nose. And I'm going to apply my thumb and slide it into the corner of her mouth, all the way to the top. Tickle the roof of her mouth. The second that she opens it, I'm going to release that pressure, and we're going to repeat that until that becomes a cue. So once the horse opens their mouth and lowers their head and brings their head towards you, now you have the prerequisite cues in order to teach your horse to bridle safely and effectively. You have to excuse Phantom today. It is really hot. It is very buggy. She is being a trooper once again, coming out here in the heat and doing one of these exercises for me. My camera has overheated today 3 times, but we're working on this exercise and bringing you part 1 and part 2 today. So as Phantom goes through these cues, and as you go through these cues with your horse, you want to make sure that you have them really well. Make sure that when you're doing this section of the exercise, do not put your head over top of the horse's poll in case they were to raise their head up in response to pressure, or if something startles them, that you won't get hit in the face. So again, my hand is going to steer the head. Now here's one of the cues and prerequisites that I go through when I'm working with my horses. I don't normally do this. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I don't normally tie the halter around my horse's neck so my horse stays with me or they don't get away from me. I don't really usually bring the lead rope around my horse's neck so that I can hold on to them. I honestly like to think that if my horse has these cues well, that they will stay here with me. Because if I feel like my horse wants to leave me, I'm not going to go to the bridle. I want to make sure that my horse understands that right here is where I'd like them to be. Now if you notice, the second that she starts to lower, I'm going to start to bring my knee and my thigh to the right. So when I ask her to come to the left, I'm going to slowly squat and make sure that my knee on the right hand side becomes the buffer. Okay, so that's important once I go to the bridle, because then I can come down here and I can ask her to open her mouth. I can ask her to lower. I can ask her to bring her head towards me. I can open her mouth from the left. So basically any of these places, I can steer my horse's head and be able to block her from trying to go to the right. So once I have all of those prerequisite cues, then I'm ready to go to my bridle. So I hope that has helped immensely. Please be sure to thoroughly teach these cues. It's the first thing I go to whenever I'm teaching an unbroke or a young horse, putting them under saddle for the very first time, even when I'm putting a bit in their mouth for the first time. I very rarely have any issues because they learn to understand how to wear the bridle and have it comfortably with the bit inserted. Now, if you are somebody that rides bitless or you're somebody that uses a hackamore, follow the same cues. You can apply the hackamore or you can have them wear their bitless the exact same way. It doesn't change. So when you're going through all of these cues, don't even skip over the opening of the mouth. Even if you're not going to insert a bit, you are going to worm your horse at some point in time. So you want to make sure that all of those cues are taught. Are we keeping you awake, my love? So I want to thank Phantom for joining me today. I hope this was helpful. I'm going to be bringing you part 2 of this exercise so that we can share with you how we bridle and how we do it safely and effectively. So I once again thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great day. Bye-bye.